What's good, my Menace Society? It is your host with the most, Shatterloke, back at you with another video. Sorry for the lighting. It's late, just getting out of work, but I had promised, subscriber of mine that I was going to make this video right, and it's a family, and they say they watch my content all the time, so I appreciate the support. Just didn't want to go back on my word. All right, which was, why do I believe that people, when proof gets put out there that, they're being manipulated and tricked, why do people still stand by these individuals and still choose to defend them, even with all evidence showing, that they're being exploited, right? And, prayers is a perfect example of this, right? Of what we have, nowadays with social media, right? And con artists, looking to create this fantasy to exploit individuals, right? And, it happens a lot, through, every genre of YouTube and social media, right? But one of the ones that gets targeted is the, urban genre, right? The taboo genre, right? Because 9 times out of 10, a lot of these individuals choose not to educate themselves on their culture or about certain things, right? So, when someone comes along that seems to know what they're talking about, they choose to fall for it a lot easier, right? Like I have always said, right? Like when I make my videos, I always say, am I no way a professional? I never said I was a professional or anything. Like I could only give my perspective, right? While these individuals come and claim to be like the person to go to, right? Like they're the ones who could show them all this, or they somehow see themselves as these figures that could provide these lessons, or sociopaths, right? Narcissists, borderline sociopath, right? Tendencies that they have. Obviously, Prayers is a guy who claimed to be an indigenous person and claimed to be a gang member and everything, but it was all baloney. Right? My guy was putting up the act of the year, right? And one of the things that, it is a trip is that the art of conning is not something that's new. It's been around for a long, long, long time, right? Con artists have always existed. Individuals who just rather not work for things, they rather trick individuals, in order for them to maintain their lifestyle, right? They don't really want to, make the sacrifices that people make or, work hard for it, right? So they look to exploit individuals, right? So this is not something that's new, right? And believe it or not, people are like, man, that's a trip. They believed it because who would take it to that extreme, right? Getting tattoos everywhere and risking your safety and stuff like that. People don't understand that this is an illness, right? These individuals who are con artists will go to great lengths, even to getting plastic surgery, to live out this fantasy that they concocted in their heads. You know what I mean? But not to show any pity for these individuals because they know what they're doing, right? So it's not like they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's not like this is something that they just can't, how can I say? This is not something that they can't fix, or that they don't understand. It's not like schizophrenia. You know what I mean? Where that is legitimately an illness that individuals, can't control. But this is, something that they could, right? So these individuals are aware of what they're doing. They just don't care to go and get help, to get on the right path, right? Because they rather choose to, get things this way, right? And so you see a lot of people like that, right? And the reason why individuals choose to still stand by these individuals, even though they're being tricked, and all the evidence that shows that they're lying and stuff like that, is because when we're talking about our personal flaws within each and every one of us, right, is one thing that a lot of people don't like. A lot of people don't like to look in the mirror. A lot of people don't like to realize their flaws or to recognize their mistakes, right? So individuals will choose to look the other way because they don't want to feel like they were not able to see that they were being lied to. They don't want to seem like they were like, how could they be so, foolish to believe this, which is all understandable because these individuals, I'm telling you, when it comes to the art of conning, individuals are really, really good. You know what I mean? Even I have been tricked, you know what I mean? Even therapists get tricked by some of these individuals, right? So, they've been doing this their whole entire life. Some of these guys are really good at their profession, right? So it's understandable of why people fall for it, right? But there's some people out there who don't really like to feel like, that they're, there's people that don't like to feel dumb or don't like to feel like they weren't able to see things or that they were played. You know what I mean? It says a lot about how they feel about themselves, right, or about being wronged. Because I don't know if people are aware of this, but there's individuals who don't like to be wrong, right? Even though they made a mistake, you could even bring proof and they won't even look at it. They'll dismiss it, right? Just because they don't want to admit that they were wrong. Um, and there's a lot of people who suffer from that, right? So that's why you get a lot of people who still choose to side with these individuals because they don't want to show that they were tricked, that they fell for it, that, you know what I mean? And that's why they still have a crowd of following, that still supports them nonetheless, right? And not only that, but there is also people who are manipulators and liars in this world. There's a lot of them, right? You know what I mean? A lot of people like to do that. A lot of people have, bad traits to them, right? So, in other words, the fake will stick with the fake and liars will stick with liars, right? So they're still going to have a support in that way, right? Individuals who see nothing wrong with conning people or tricking people, like, well, if they allow themselves to get tricked, oh, well, that falls on them. They don't see nothing wrong with exploiting people. That's a trip, huh? That there's people out there that don't see nothing wrong with exploiting people. That's crazy, But Prez is a perfect example of someone who comes and who creates this fake persona, who then to trick people to get obviously financial gain and to sexually take advantage of women who believed in his overall spiritual guidance and whatnot, right? Because like I have said in my other video, people who believe in the supernatural, who believe in the spiritual and all of that, they tend to be easy targets for individuals like this, for them to exploit, right? They play into their fantasy, right? They play into this whole they pull off this act, right, in order to exploit these people, right? Because obviously someone who doesn't believe in that, it's going to be a lot harder to try to trick this individual out of something because you could provide them something, without actually really providing anything, right? But in this, when people believe, that's the thing. The brain is a very powerful thing. It could make you believe, things. It could really make you see things, and it could make you feel things, right? But it's all in your head, right? But that's how powerful the brain is, right? So there's people out there who these people, provide these, spiritual lessons to, right? And they legitimately feel better. They legitimately feel like, that there's a change and that they could feel it, right? Because they, in their head, they're tricking themselves into belief because they want to believe this so bad, that it allows them to now feel something, right? But it's all in their heads, right? And the thing with con artists is that they're really good at recognizing people's flaws, and there's people that could recognize, there's people out there that are really good at reading people, right? Some will use it for good, right? Like, to help others, right? Like therapy and, psychologists and stuff like that. While others who have the same similar gift of reading people will choose to use their gift to exploit, to take advantage and stuff like that, right? Just like in this world, there's, two intelligent people, one, will look to create a cure for cancer, that way he could help those, in sickness, right? While another equally intelligent person, as this individual, will look to create the sample just to exploit people, just to, get all this kind of money and to, overprice stuff and just, create a monopoly, for he could get all the money, right? While one did it, because out of the kindness of his heart, he was looking to actually help humanity. This individual was just looking to, enrich himself and just to think about him, and he doesn't care how many families out there have to die and whatnot. He's just looking to get his money. Two equally intelligent people, but that use their gifts for two completely different reasons, right? And in this world, that's the world we live in. There's people that are going to see the cup half full, and there's people that are going to see the cup half empty, right? It just depends, what side of the spectrum you're on. But that's why individuals, just choose to still side with the individuals, even though they're being manipulated and stuff like that, because they just don't want to admit that they're being lied to or tricked, or that they're not intelligent enough to see it. You know what I mean? Um, Not to say that they're dumb or anything like that, right? But they just don't want to see that they don't want to admit that they were lied to, right? To feel like they fell for it, right? It's just how they view themselves, not so much like, oh my God, it's embarrassing that everyone, like, oh, dumb can you be and stuff like that. It's more about them, staying face to themselves, right? Tricking themselves into believing that, nah, like, you would have seen it if they were doing that. Um, yeah, but overall, that's just my breakdown and my opinion on the subject. But what do you think? Leave it in the comments. MC Shadow, where?